In the not-so-distant future, the skyline of New Beijing shimmered under the fluorescent glow of digital billboards. Hover cars zipped by, leaving trails of light against the night sky, while the hum of life pulsed through the crowded streets below. Amid this technological wonder, Li Wei walked with his head down, lost in the throng of pedestrians. He blended in seamlessly, an unassuming figure in a world driven by spectacle and power. Li Wei was just another face in the crowd, a software engineer by day, a reclusive dreamer by night. Yet, he held a secret that had shaped his life since childhood. He possessed the ability to read minds and manipulate thoughts, a gift that felt more like a curse. After a childhood incident where his powers spiraled out of control, leading to a moment he could never forget, he vowed to keep his abilities hidden. Fear of his own strength kept him in the shadows, allowing him to live a quiet life filled with routine and isolation, but the world was changing. News reports had been buzzing about a series of mysterious attacks, violent events that seemed to defy explanation. Groups of individuals with similar powers emerged from the dark, striking fear into the heart of the government. Li Wei, ever the observer, watched the chaos unfold on his small apartment screen, a knot tightening in his stomach. The first attack happened at the National Institute for Advanced Mental Research, a facility dedicated to studying the very powers Li Wei had sought to hide. Armed assailants with glowing eyes and eerie calm swept through the halls, using their abilities to incapacitate guards and civilians alike. Li Wei felt their mental signatures from miles away, chaotic, hungry, and unrelenting. The images burned in his mind as he witnessed the destruction, the terror echoing in his ears. Weeks passed, and each incident grew bolder, more brazen. The world was on edge, and whispers of the mind rebellion flooded social media. Governments faltered under pressure, unable to comprehend or counteract the onslaught. Li Wei's heart raced as he realized he couldn't ignore the threat any longer, especially when the news broke that a close friend, Xiao Mei, had been taken by the attackers during one of their raids. They had used her as a pawn, an innocent caught in the crossfire of a war that had just begun. That night, the weight of his decision bore down on him like a heavy fog. He stood on the balcony of his modest apartment, gazing at the bustling streets below. He knew he couldn't hide forever. The stakes were too high, and he had to act. As if summoned by fate, a vision flickered in his mind, a glimpse of a team. Others like him, struggling with their own powers, searching for purpose. They could fight back. Li Wei pulled out his phone, fingers trembling. He needed to find them. Over the next few days, he scoured forums, chat rooms, and underground networks, his heart racing with each potential lead. Each name he found sent chills down his spine, people who had either embraced their powers or had been forced into hiding. He discovered Rena, a fierce woman known for her telepathic prowess, who had evaded government capture for years. Then there was Jean, a former military strategist with the ability to manipulate emotions, whose experiences had left him disillusioned. Lastly, he found Tao, a brilliant hacker with minor telekinetic skills, who used his talents to help those oppressed by the system. It took all of Li Wei's courage to reach out, but as he crafted his messages, he felt the weight of purpose. He shared his vision of forming a team to combat the mind rebellion, to protect the innocent and reclaim their freedom. The responses varied, from skepticism to outright rejection, but eventually, a flicker of hope ignited. One by one, they agreed to meet. The first gathering took place in a dimly lit cafe, tucked away from prying eyes. Li Wei arrived early, heart pounding, rehearsing his speech in his mind. When the others arrived, each wore a mask of uncertainty, eyes darting as they scanned the room. Rena was the first to speak, her voice a blend of curiosity and defiance. "So, you think we can stop them?" Li Wei met her gaze, feeling a surge of determination. I know we can. Together, we have the strength to fight back. We need to train, to strategize. They're powerful, but we can outsmart them. Jean leaned back, arms crossed. And if we fail? If they find us first? The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. That's a risk we have to take, Li Wei replied. We can't sit back and let them control our lives any longer. We've been living in fear for too long. Tao, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. What's the plan then? We can't just charge in without knowing what we're up against. Li Wei nodded, acknowledging the challenge ahead. We gather intel first. We need to understand their operations, their weaknesses. Then we train to hone our abilities. If we can infiltrate their ranks, we can turn the tide. As they discussed tactics, strategies began to take shape. Rena would focus on enhancing her telepathic skills to gather information, while Jean would devise emotional manipulation techniques to confuse their enemies. Tao's tech skills would be critical in hacking into secure systems, providing them with crucial intelligence. And Li Wei, as the orchestrator, would teach them how to harness their powers in unison. Days turned into weeks as they met regularly, forging bonds that felt like family. They trained in abandoned warehouses, utilizing their abilities in ways they had never imagined. Rena became adept at reading thoughts, guiding the group with insights gleaned from their surroundings. Jin's emotional manipulation helped them understand how to disorient their opponents during practice runs. Tao's hacking skills opened doors to hidden information, laying bare the strategies of the Mind Rebellion, but Li Wei struggled with his own demons. Each time he tapped into his powers, memories of that fateful day flooded back: fear, guilt, pain. He found it difficult to maintain focus during training sessions, haunted by the shadows of his past. One night, after a grueling practice, Rena approached him. You're holding back, Li Wei. You need to let go of your fear. Her words resonated deeply, sparking a flicker of resolve within him. I can't, he confessed, voice trembling. What if I lose control again? Then we'll be there to catch you, she said, her expression unwavering. You're not alone anymore. Trust us. Her encouragement became the catalyst for his change. With each passing day, he learned to embrace his abilities, slowly breaking down the walls he had built around himself. He realized that true strength lay not in isolation, but in connection, bonds forged through shared struggles and aspirations. As they trained, news of the Mind Rebellion continued to dominate headlines, fueling their determination. The enemy's tactics grew bolder, with reports of mind control used on key political figures, plunging nations into chaos. It became clear that time was running out. Li Wei and his team knew they had to act before the world descended into darkness. The night they planned to infiltrate the Mind Rebellion's stronghold, the air was thick with tension. They gathered in a secluded location, reviewing their strategy one last time. Li Wei felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, a reminder of the stakes they faced. He looked at each member of his team, their faces illuminated by the dim light of their makeshift headquarters. Tonight, we fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who has suffered at their hands, he said, his voice steady. We're the first line of defense against this darkness. Trust in each other, and we will succeed. With that, they set out into the night, hearts racing and minds sharpened, ready to confront the enemy that had long loomed over their lives. As they approached the heart of the city, the atmosphere shifted, heavy with anticipation and adrenaline. The night felt alive with possibility, each sound amplified: the distant thrum of hover cars, the rustle of leaves in the cool breeze, the rapid beating of their hearts. Li Wei led the way, his mind attuned to the environment, ready to sense any lurking dangers. The coordinates they had uncovered pointed to an abandoned factory, a facade for the Mind Rebellion's operations. Under the cover of darkness, they slipped through a gap in the chain-link fence, their silhouettes merging with the shadows. The factory loomed ahead, its broken windows like dark eyes watching their approach. Rena, her senses heightened, reached out mentally, searching for any signs of movement within. "There are thoughts inside," she whispered, her brows furrowing. "Confusion, anger. They're preparing for something." Li Wei nodded, feeling the electric tension in the air. "We'll split into pairs. Rena and Jean, you take the upper floors. Tao and I will head down to the basement. We need to gather intel and find out what they're planning." With a silent agreement, they moved as one, the weight of their mission anchoring their resolve. Rena and Jean ascended a rusted fire escape, while Li Wei and Tao crept toward the dark maw of the factory's entrance. The air grew colder, thick with dust and the remnants of industry long forgotten. As they descended into the bowels of the building, Li Wei felt the familiar tug of his abilities, the hum of minds brushing against his. "Stay sharp," he murmured to Tao, who nodded, eyes darting around the dimly lit space. They made their way deeper, passing through crumbling hallways, the sound of their footsteps muffled by years of neglect. Suddenly, the eerie silence shattered. A loud crash echoed from above, followed by frantic shouting. Rena's voice pierced through the chaos. "Li Wei. We're compromised." Instinctively, Li Wei felt the panic rise within him, but he forced it down, focusing on the task at hand. "Quick. We need to find a way to regroup," he urged Tao, leading them toward a series of doors that looked promising. They slipped through one and found themselves in a small control room, illuminated by the glow of flickering monitors. Li Wei approached the screens, heart racing as he scanned the information displayed. "Here," he said, pointing at the data streaming across one of the monitors. "They're planning a mass demonstration. They want to showcase their control over prominent leaders in the city, broadcast it live to incite fear and chaos." Tao's eyes widened. If they go through with this, it could destabilize everything. Li Wei nodded, his mind racing. "We have to stop it. But we need to warn Rena and Jean." Just then, a voice crackled over the intercom, deep and mocking. "Welcome, little warriors. You think you can disrupt our plans? You're just pawns in a game you don't understand." Li Wei's stomach dropped as he recognized the voice, Shadow, the enigmatic leader of the Mind Rebellion. The realization struck him like a thunderbolt. They were trapped, exposed. "Get ready," Li Wei whispered as he turned to Tao. "We need to create a diversion." Tao glanced at the control panel. "I might be able to access their security feeds. If I can loop the cameras, it will buy us some time." He began typing rapidly, his fingers flying across the keyboard while Tao worked. Li Wei concentrated, reaching out with his mind to sense where Rena and Jean were. He felt their fear, their struggle against overwhelming odds. "Stay strong," he murmured, trying to project calm through the mental link. The tension in the air thickened as alarms blared, red lights flashing in the darkness. "They know we're here," Tao exclaimed, sweat beading on his forehead. Almost there, with a sudden surge, the monitors flickered to life, and the cameras began to loop. "Got it. We have a few minutes," he said, breathing a sigh of relief. "Let's go." Li Wei urged, moving swiftly back through the door. They needed to regroup before the enemy realized what had happened. As they navigated the hallways, they heard shouts echoing behind them, the sounds of footsteps closing in. Finally, they reached the stairwell where Rena and Jean had been, the tension palpable in the air. Rena emerged from the shadows, her face taut with determination. "They're sending more guards up. We need to move." "Did you get the intel?" Li Wei asked, urgency in his tone. Rena nodded, pulling out a small drive. "We recorded everything, plans, names, locations. It's not much time, but we can use it to expose them." "Good. We need to get out," Jean said, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "More are coming." "Follow me," Li Wei instructed, leading the group toward the back exit. They moved quickly, adrenaline propelling them forward, but as they reached the door, it burst open, revealing a group of armed men, their eyes glowing with a menacing light. "Too late," Shadow's voice echoed through the hall, cold and taunting. "You've wandered right into my trap." Without thinking, Li Wei tapped into his powers, sending a wave of calm through the group. "Stay focused. We can do this." He felt their fear mingling with determination, a flicker of hope igniting in their minds. Rena unleashed a barrage of psychic energy, sending two of the attackers staggering back, while Jean manipulated the emotions of another, turning his fear into confusion. Tao ducked and weaved, using his telekinetic abilities to shove objects into the path of the attackers, buying them precious seconds. "Push forward." Li Wei shouted, leading the charge through the chaos. They fought their way through, working in harmony, their abilities complementing each other's. As they reached a stairwell leading to the roof, they pressed on, desperate to escape the clutches of the Mind Rebellion. The roof was bathed in the glow of the city, the horizon stretching endlessly before them. But their victory was short-lived. Shadow stood at the edge, arms crossed, a wicked smile on his face. "You think you can escape? This city belongs to me now." Li Wei's heart raced as he faced the man who had haunted his thoughts for weeks. "This isn't over, Shadow. We won't let you win." Shadow laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "You're so naive. You don't understand the power we wield. I could control you with a thought." With a fierce determination, Li Wei reached deep within himself, channeling every ounce of strength he had gained from his team. "I won't let you control me," he yelled, unleashing a wave of mental energy that collided with Shadow's force, a clash of wills echoing through the night. As their powers collided, the world around them seemed to freeze, time suspended in a moment of conflict. Li Wei saw flashes of Shadow's memories, pain, betrayal, isolation. In that instant, he realized the man was not merely a villain but a product of his own fear and suffering. "Stop this!" Li Wei shouted, pushing through the barrier of Shadow's mind. "You don't have to be this way. We can find another path." For a heartbeat, uncertainty flickered in Shadow's eyes, but the moment was fleeting. "Fool! You think you can save me? You're just a boy playing at heroism." With renewed ferocity, Shadow retaliated, a surge of energy erupting from him like a storm. Li Wei braced himself, feeling the weight of his team beside him. Together, he called out, drawing on Rena, Jean, and Tao's strength. As they united their powers, a brilliant light enveloped them, pushing back against Shadow's darkness. It was a tidal wave of hope, a testament to their bonds forged in struggle. The force surged forward, crashing against Shadow and shattering his defenses. "No!" Shadow cried out, the sound echoing in the night as he was swept away, his form dissolving in the blinding light. The factory trembled, and the air crackled with energy, the clash of their powers echoing through the streets below. The moment of chaos fell into stillness as the light faded, revealing a roof empty save for Li Wei and his team. They stood panting, adrenaline still coursing through their veins, the weight of their actions hanging heavy in the air. "We did it," Rena whispered, disbelief mingling with relief. "Not just us," Jean said, looking around. "We're not alone anymore." Li Wei's heart swelled with pride as he looked at his friends. "We can't stop here. There are still others who need our help, others like us who are afraid. We can't let fear win." As the first light of dawn broke over the city, casting a golden hue across the skyline, they made their way down from the roof, renewed purpose guiding their steps. They were no longer just individuals with powers, they were a team, a force for good. And together, they would stand against the darkness. The world was changing, and they were ready to lead that change, to become the protectors of those who had suffered in silence for too long. As they stepped into the morning light, Li Wei felt a sense of hope he had never known before. This was just the beginning.